Well, hey, church family, this is Ryan Burns, one of the worship leaders at McLean Presbyterian Church, and I'm so excited to join you on day 109 of our journey through the Psalms. Thanks for taking time today to join us in Psalm 109. I hope this psalm encourages you, I hope it draws you closer to Jesus, and I hope it reminds you that God is at work in your life. So let's jump in together. Psalm 109 is a bit of a longer psalm, so we won't have time to read all of it in our time together today. But throughout the psalm, there are 4 natural breaks, creating 5 stanzas. So what I've done is I've pulled out a couple of verses from each of those stanzas to help us get a picture of the whole psalm. Let's start in verse 1 together and read through these. So Psalm 109, help me, O Lord my God. It says, be not silent, O God of my praise, for wicked and deceitful mouths are opened against me, speaking against me with lying tongues. They encircle me with words of hate and attack me without cause. Appoint a wicked man against him. Let an accuser stand at his right hand. When he is tried, let him come forth guilty. Let his prayer be counted as sin. May his days be few. May another take his office. For he did not remember to show kindness, but pursued the poor and needy and the brokenhearted to put them to death. But you, O God my Lord, deal on my behalf for your name's sake. Because your steadfast love is good, deliver me, for I am poor and needy, and my heart is stricken within me. Help me, O Lord my God. Save me according to your steadfast love. Let them know that this is your hand. You, O Lord, have done it. And with my mouth I will give great thanks to the Lord. I will praise him in the midst of the throng, for he stands at the right hand of the needy one to save him from those who condemn his soul to death. Coming back up to the top in verse 1, at its core, we see that Psalm 109 is a psalm about injustice. It's one of David's heavier psalms, because it's full of the pain and the frustration and anger that he feels towards injustice. When we arrive on the scene of Psalm 109 as the readers, we enter a courtroom that is broken out into mayhem. David sits as the defendant, listening to lies spoken about him by wicked and deceitful mouths. In this psalm, David is being treated unjustly. He's encircled with words of hate and attacked without cause. So, in response to this injustice, what does David do? Well, he calls it out first and foremost and asks that an accuser come to his side and do something about it. He actually says some really brutal things throughout this second stanza. And if you go back and read the whole psalm, in verses 6 through 20, he says some really tough things towards those who are acting unjustly. But in doing so, he actually gives us a glimpse into how our righteous and just God feels towards injustice. While we see in this stanza that it angers David, it pains David to have injustice brought against him, so much so that he cries out, may the one who's accusing him, his days be few. May another take his office. We actually get a glimpse that injustice angers God. It pains God, and it causes God to act. David knows this. And so after calling out the injustice, we see him turn to the only one who can truly right every wrong. In verse 26, David turns his eyes to the Lord, calling on him for help and salvation. He cries out to the Lord, asking that he would act against injustice and that he would let those who are doing wrong to him know that it is him who is acting. He says, let them know that it is your hand who is responding to this injustice. For, O Lord, you are the one who has done it. You see, God is the just one. He's not blind to injustice. He does not turn his face away from it, but instead he stares it down. He feels the anger and the grief that so many of us and David feel when we see injustice and experience it in our own lives. But then God goes further. He acts. He brings forth justice. He stands, as we see in verse 31, at the right hand of the needy one, and he saves him from those who condemn his soul to death unjustly. And that's why in verse 30, David can turn his heart even to worship. Even though he's still in the middle of being treated unjustly, he worships. We read that he gives great thanks to the Lord, that he praises him in the midst of the chaos and mayhem of injustice that's going on. So as we come to the end of this psalm, church family, I wonder how you're handling the injustice that you're seeing every day. How are you handling the injustice the world shows towards people of color? How are you handling the injustice the world shows towards the unborn? How are you handling the injustice that you may be experiencing even in the hidden places of your own life today? No matter how you're feeling, I want to encourage you to take heart, because this psalm gives us a playbook for how to wrestle with injustice. It reminds us first that justice and injustice are real, and that the pain and the grief and the anger we feel towards injustice is the same pain, grief, and anger that God feels towards it. We're not alone. But it also reminds us that we're not helpless in that anger either, but that we can turn to a just God who stands at the right hand of the needy and saves him from injustice, and that God will make all things new.